Welcome back. It is the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Sologent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Thanks for joining us every single week for the number one renewable energy podcast in the world. Every single week we have experts from around the world, our vendors, our customer partners that are in the field as well, folks with decades of experience in this business so that we can glean knowledge from them to learn more about our mission of creating a world that is beyond emissions. And we're going to be picking the brain of an expert this week. As always, we have different experts. This guy, actually, I spend a lot of time on the phone with. He's a great customer of ours. His name is Ken Dodds from NuEra. SolarKen@me.com. You're going to want to reach out to Ken here when we're done with our podcast, especially if you have some more questions regarding our conversations today. But we're going to glean from his knowledge and pick his brain a little bit today in regards to energy storage and solar and renewable energy, states, utilities, different challenges that homeowners and business owners are having these days, and solutions that Ken and partners that work with Ken like us here at Sologent are working on together to solve these problems for our customers, for you, the homeowners and business owners. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, and of course at the Sologent YouTube channel. This is the Beyond Emissions podcast. I'm your host and, of course, also energy storage manager here at Sologent. So feel free to reach out anytime. Comment down below if you have questions as well. We'd love to get back with you and communicate and coordinate with you on how you could also help us be a part of this creating a world that is beyond emissions, this mission of creating an emissions-free future. That's what we're doing every single day. Let's start it off with this question for you, the audience. What does a world that is beyond emissions mean for you? What does it mean for you? Again, comment down below so you can be a part of our ongoing conversation and help us create this world that is beyond emissions. Our guest today, I mentioned Ken Dodds from NuEra. Ken, enjoyed chatting with you, working with you, and now having you in the hot seat, if you will. I appreciate you being here as a guest on the Beyond Emissions podcast. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey, what do you mean the hot seat? No, that's okay. Thank you. Happy to be here. Always good to talk with you, so I'm sure we'll have a good conversation today. And you asked them a question, what does the world beyond emissions mean to them? And to me, it's kind of like it's been my life's mission since like 1986, trying to work with solar when I started doing things with Arco solar panels way back, off-grid stuff all the time then. But it's beyond expanding where you can have electricity. It's extremely important for us to not leave a mess on top of each other and for future generations also. Yeah, a big difference from when you started back in 1986. You mentioned back then our solar world, it was all off-grid, right? What'd you have, 100 and 150 watt panels back then for PV? Options 35 watt.
Mm-hmm.
35 watt, 45 watt.
String them all together.
Yeah, they weren't very big. And a lot of systems were parallels and some strings. The modules weren't friendly with stringing to each other. They liked to work at the voltage they wanted to work at, so the parallel was pretty good back then. Of course, we didn't have high voltage, systems to need a high voltage battery back then. So
yeah, it's a new world. And fast forward to 2023 and almost coming up to 2024. Let's fast forward in the time machine, if you will. From then to now, what a big difference. Talk a little bit about that. Kind of compare and contrast where we've come from to where we're going. It's light years apart, isn't it?
Yeah, the things that we dreamed of even 15 years ago are being put in our hands today. Technology, electronics, the people's advances in engineering, the advances in silicon chips that allowed, Apple to go crazy and so on, are also helping us with, smart solar like the SMA product that's coming out. That looks pretty doggone impressive. I guess they're going to start shipping them in January. But, it's changed even beyond some of my wishes and dreams, although I wish I would have controlled some of it a little more. But, I'm only one guy in a big market. So, but it's really, really shocking, the advances in the last, say, 6 to 8 years. It's just totally, it's mind-blowing, the changes we've seen. And now the new inverters working with the high-voltage batteries, which are so much smarter than the low-voltage batteries, and the wiring side. I mean, I work with huge battery banks with gigantic, half-inch diameter, I don't remember how many circular mills of fine copper wire to make the battery bank connect to the system. You don't need that with these high-voltage batteries. So with the cost of copper, even the cost of installation goes down with these modernized systems and the new battery technology coming with the lithium iron phosphate batteries. So I don't mean to just run over with the conversation. You can pop in and run over me anytime you want.
Oh, no worries, man. That's why you're here, is we're able to absorb, pardon the pun, for the charge nomenclature.
Yeah.
Absorb, float, absorb, exactly. Bulk, absorb, and float, for those of you who are in on the lingo. But what I wanted to ask you is, these customers these days, it's not all about battery backup necessarily for loads even. I mean, there's so much grid support going on, the duck curve, NEM 3 now happening in California. So in your opinion, what makes storage so essential these days for the customers that you're talking to?
Well, from my outlook, it's very smart to use battery and has been all along. But not just for backup, but for load shaving and for demand shaving and peak shaving, these type of things. Now that you're mandated to be on a time of use schedule, whether you have an electric car or not or whatever, you're going to have expensive times of day and not expensive times of day. So when you have a battery system that you can control how many hours you're going to not take power from the grid during the expensive time and only use the power that you generated and stored in the battery for that evening hour, so to speak. Usually, it depends on which utility and whatever, but let's just say from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. is the most expensive, and in some places that might be almost 70 cents a kilowatt hour, where the rest of the day you might pay 23 cents. So you definitely would want to use the solar power to charge the battery, and then from 4 to 9 you want to use your own power instead of buying the expensive power. So the advantages of the new systems are the programmability to do that. And that's one of the huge shocking advancements to me, is that they finally got that around, and I didn't have to do it with like relays and time clocks and manually build something. It's now in the inverter. Each one is working it a little differently. They'll get smarter as they go. But it's just, I'm so happy that this is all happening. I'm also happy with the advances in the lithium iron phosphate batteries, something like the Simplify, which you guys carry. It's made right in Oxnard, California. That is a fantastic battery that you basically try to make it have a thermal runaway and have a fire, and it just doesn't. So it's well tested, well built. Those products are out there. You use those, you've got a good solid system, and your home is safe, because you're not going to have issues with those problems, the type of things.
If it's properly sized, right? When you're talking to a customer, oftentimes they have, well, in your case, it may not be that situation, because you have a relationship long-standing with a lot of your customers, so they may be only talking to you. But oftentimes, customers, homeowners, business owners, again, Beyond Emissions Podcast, thanks for being here today. Ken Dodds from NuEra, an awesome customer partner with Solagent. Amazing person with a lot of experience that we're able to borrow and glean from his knowledge today here at the Beyond Emissions podcast to learn about renewable energy, what's happening today in our market. So we appreciate you listening. And Ken, thanks again for being here. So customers, oftentimes they're getting 2, 3, 4 quotes from different installers. A lot of red flags out there. What do you come across? I personally have come across having to correct the mistakes of lazy salespeople, et cetera, from competition of some of our customers out there. Here's a little teeny tiny lunchbox size battery that'll power your whole house. Sign on the clipboard right here, sir. There's a lot of that going on. What should homeowners and business owners be looking out for from a red flag standpoint as well when they're getting these quotes from installers? I love your advice on that.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your compliments there, Josh. But we're just all about the business. So I think that there's shady people out there in any business. You need to talk to somebody that's reputable, and you need to talk to former clients or customers of theirs that have systems in them. Now, you're not going to find so many of those that have a battery now, like you brought up. You can't say, we're going to give you a 4 kilowatt hour battery. Well, it's going to run your refrigerator for a few hours and your internet, but it's not going to run it's certainly not going to turn on your air conditioner for more than a few minutes, if it's going to do that at all. It's very important to look at what your loads are that you really want protected. As far as the battery, it also has to be the right size to work for your typical kilowatt hour usage from those expensive 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. as a reference. Some of them are a little different. In those hours, you want enough battery that you're not running it all the way down, but you don't want so much battery that you're never using 30% of it. So sizing is all dependent. It's just like solar, and we go back to this, Josh, all the time. I have a 4-bedroom house. How much solar do I need? I have lots of roof. Well, how many people live there? What's your electric bill look like? How many kilowatt hours do you use a month in July and August and September? How many do you use in December when you're using Christmas lights? How many do you use on the other months? How many people are in there? Are you electric water heater or gas water heater? Do you have electric stove or gas? You can't just say by square footage how much solar you need. It's all based on kilowatt hours. Sizing your battery is just the same. And California's mandate on commercial buildings now, which you and I have gone through the numbers on this, Josh, you pick a size, conditioned space, so on and so forth, and they want X amount of solar on it. That doesn't mean that's the right solar system for that business, for that office building or for that convenience store, but that's what the state's mandating that they have as an assistance to the grid. Beyond that, they use that size to mandate a battery size and add some other numbers to it so that typically, if the grid was down, the battery size can keep special loads like emergency lighting and refrigeration and internet and things like that going. But those are numbers that are given based on square footage and so on, type of use, etc. That is not the proper way to get the actual system size. You need to know what the kilowatt hours are that are being used for the time period you expect the battery to cover, and then you need to go bigger than that so that you have a buffer. Then you also want to make sure that you can actually charge it if it's slow. So let's say we've had these weird storms here in California this winter and over summer, and you've got days where you get almost no solar at all. So you're not going to rely completely on solar to save money. You're going to have to go in at 1 in the morning or 11 at night and start charging your battery from the grid in those cases in order to get your cheap rate of power when you're not using it for other things. And, when it's at the cheapest rate possible, you'll charge the battery when the weather's bad so that during that 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. period, you still have a full battery to take care of your needs. So there you're buying 23-cent power instead of, I'm just using reference number, but 23-cent power instead of 69-cent power. You're losing 7.65% of it, but you're still saving money. So those are important things. You can't just grab a number and say, oh, well, your neighbor got this size, so let's do the same thing. If their house is exactly the same, with exactly the same direction, and exactly the same human beings inside, they're using power with the exact same frequency, well, yeah, you might be close. But each job needs to be properly evaluated, especially with businesses. Commercial is my specialty, and from retail to industrial buildings and office buildings, medical facilities. Those are I've done lots of homes, but commercial is what I specialize in now, and it's quite an evaluation process and then an education process for either a homeowner or a business owner, because it's not just cut and dry. If you don't go to the store and buy a pair of black patent leather shoes to wear with your tux when you're talking solar and batteries.
Yes, and inflation is really hitting the pocketbooks of residential, but you mentioned, Ken, commercial is your specialty, and a lot of these businesses, some of them are 24/7 operations. Inflation's just hitting businesses left and right, and the cost of doing business going up, less money available out there in the economy for them to go earn and get. They've got to work harder than ever. Prices rising, cost rising on almost everything they buy and consume and use and sell, etc. And business owners don't have much control, neither do we as homeowners, over inflation. But one area that business owners can grab a hold of and control is their energy, if they do it right. Like that's one area business owners are always looking to read the tea leaves and to try to make the best decisions for what's happening next quarter and the following quarter and so on from a financial fiduciary standpoint. And oftentimes they can be way off. But what if you don't have to be way off as it pertains to your energy? Cost of energy is a big part of costs that are associated with businesses. And commercial being your specialty, what are you seeing right now? Are you seeing commercial entities embracing the idea of like, you know what, I can't control all this going on, all these costs going up, inflation, but I can control my energy costs? Are they embracing that, or what is their mindset?
Well, they are, and they also have problems with solar billing, as you call it, in M3, which Edison in particular calls it solar billing, because they're only getting a fraction back of what they send to the grid. So now it's even more important for them to actually capture and use as much of the power that they make as possible. But that also requires some pretty big systems and batteries if they're going to continue running, with the grid out, because they're drawing a lot of power as a manufacturer. But when you have the grid, they're working with you, and you can draw immediate power and send it back and still get some credit. That's a saving grace. But the battery that keeps up with most of your business is essentially trying to keep you back in the NEM 2.0 realm, where you make it, you use it, it's all free. I have commercial customers that are still back, because they were installed a few years ago. They're still in NEM 1 or NEM 2, and their systems are paid for between tax advantages, tax credits, and depreciation and so on. So they've got a $190,000 system, and it's only on the books now for $8,000 of value or something, but they've depreciated it. But now it's all paid for, and they're, instead of paying $2,900 a month, $2,500, $3,600 a month for electricity, they're paying $50 or $60. $80. They're paying meter fees and service fees, and we've gotten rid of the demand charge by using the solar the right way and scheduling their operations in the building at certain times. You don't do this. You can only do this on a sunny day, blah, blah, blah. So we get to stay at this lower rate. And they follow them, and they know they're putting, what's $3,000 a month? That's $36,000 a year on their bottom line that they wouldn't have. So homeowners don't have that big a bill, but I have run into homeowners all the time that have a summer bill in the $600 to $800 range, and maybe a December bill with a load of Christmas lights at $450. So homeowners have to think when they buy a home, how much power is it going to take? And can I put solar on it? And can I use batteries to save money? Because they need to invest not only in the home, they need to invest in what makes the home efficient. And the utilities continue to raise rates somewhere between 5, 7, and 10, even 11% a year. So in 10 years, if your electric bill goes up 10% a year, your $500 bill is, now basically double. So that's a consideration too.
Yeah, and you business owners, homeowners, you have the ability to take control of something that, eludes us these days, the ability to control anything, especially on the financial front. Inflation is crazy. I went to the store the other day, and, what did I get? A Gatorade. That's what it was. I got a Gatorade. I needed a 32-ounce Gatorade. I needed 2 of them. And they shrunk the size of the Gatorade bottle to 28 ounces instead of 32. Like nobody would notice. But you get less
plastic.
Yeah.
Less plastic, less liquid.
Uh-huh. But you're still paying the same.
Or more.
Right. So, we can't control that. We can't control the higher cost. We can't control the bill that I just got the other day talking about how our flood insurance, we're not even in a flood area, but our flood insurance went up like double. Like, I'm not even in a flood area. Like, everything is going up. And I can't control it. I can't control that, the meal that I used to get at the restaurant, at the fast food place was $10 and now it's $20. I can't control that. It is what it is. But we can control our energy if we do it the right way. That's the key.
Correct.
What's that?
I said absolutely correct. It has to be done the right way, and then it's a smart investment.
That's it. And you hear these words, ROI, get your return on investment, ROI, just thrown around by these manufacturers. I won't name them. I will just say, though, that a lot of times the pre-canned speeches that the manufacturers train the solar installers on how to deliver that to the end user or the customer, it's great. It is helping some people, but not everybody fits in that box. When I see somebody saying that, for the lifetime of your system, your payoff and your ROI is X, but we're not going to tell you that the battery is nickel, manganese, cobalt and gets 40% fewer life cycles and will be at 70% of its available capacity and drop like a rock thereafter in year 11 or 12. Something they're not sharing with customers.
Or sooner, and it might only have a 5-year warranty, if that.
That's not something that is being necessarily promoted. Just the quick sale is so. Again, there's a lot of great companies out there, a lot of great installers out there, a lot of great salespeople out there. I'm not trying to just paint with a broad brush, but it's so easy to just take somebody who doesn't know anything and come in with a clipboard and show them on your little tablet, the presentation, and it just makes so much sense. But it doesn't really point out some of those variables like chemistry and life expectancy and life cycles. Those are all things that matter in addition to safety, etc. When you're talking with customers, you run the gamut and really explain all of that, don't you?
Oh, I have to. In fact, I prefer unless it's just a direct word of mouth referral, somebody knows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people I've worked with, then it's, I go in and talk to them about everything and so on and so forth. And in cases where it's just somebody I've just met, I often prefer them to talk to several other people first and formulate their questions so I can go over and answer everything, and tell them what they really need to be looking at compared to what they've been told. And so I guess I'm like, I don't know, I have a weird, some people call me a solar guru. I like to make sure it's correct. I like to, like your guru is supposed to make you think right and do things right? So I like to make sure that the system is going to do what I say. I like to always make the system in such a fashion that it's probably going to perform better than I say it will. Then people are always happy. You never want to give somebody a system that performs less. You just don't want to get near that problem. So it's kind of, I don't know. I almost prefer to talk to somebody who has a bunch of skewed knowledge so I can straighten them out. Does that make sense, Josh?
It does. It does. And that's what you want to look for, folks. You don't want to look for the person that talks to you for 5 seconds and shoots you a quote with a DocuSign. You don't want to, no. You want to work with somebody who is going to have a back and forth, a conversation. They might even be giving you some homework before they come and give you a quote. If they're not doing that, would you go to a doctor and just walk in and they size you up, they look you up, they look you down just in 2 seconds and go, I know what you need? That's the same thing, right? Isn't that what happens in solar and storage?
Oh, it happens all the time. It's funny. People say, well, I saw somebody and they told me this. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm not going to talk bad about anybody, but let me show you the whole story. They gave you about 6% of what you need to know. So let's go ahead and find the other 94% and explain it.
And be aware, folks, beware. TV commercials oversimplify things. I think it was, I don't want to say the name of it. It was like Goal Zero or Blue Yeti or something like that. I saw a TV commercial. And they have these they're like 3 kilowatt hour or 2 kilowatt hour little suitcases. And they stack them up. And they show this lady and the whole house has light on and everything's running. And they even say that, run your whole house. And I'm like, whose house, right? Like if it's a tent and a few lights, sure. I mean, literally, they were talking about running everything and the whole entire block was out of power. And that's what the consumer sees. They oversimplify it in the media. And we're giving you this advice, not just to get on our soapbox and, God, that dated me a little bit, soapbox. But we're not just getting on our soapbox to preach at you and, wag our finger at these overzealous salespeople that oversimplify things. What we're trying to do is kind of like what Bob Vila does, like on This Old House, and on those home improvement videos. He's trying to give you, the consumer, the right advice. Don't just jump on the quick quote or the quick quotes, because oftentimes that's plural. Multiple companies giving you a quote within an hour because they want to make a sale. Right. We want to be like Bob Vila. We're experts at this, and we want to educate you so that you can make an informed decision, the right decision, right?
Yep. Can you imagine the solar system for Tim the Toolman Taylor of Home Improvement on the show? Oh my God! Power, more power. He would have had solar on 25 neighbors' roofs feeding his house. Anyway, sorry to cut off there, but no, it's not fun and games, people. It's serious business, and it needs to be addressed correctly, and then you will be happy with it for the lifetime of your home. If people, warranties on modules You can get a warranty for 25 years on an inverter now, but modules are up to 25 years. Everything is lasting longer because they're made better, but seriously, I've got systems I put together 25 years ago that are still making almost as much power as they did the day we turned them on. Models could last 50, 60, 70, 80 years. You might replace inverter before that, probably because of better technology, not necessarily because of need. But your solar is probably going to operate, if you get quality product, for many, many, many years. So your consideration is also, what the product is they're selling you, and what the warranty is, and where is it made, and will the company be around 10 years from now if you need something, that type of thing. So,
yeah, that's one thing I'm always looking out for you, our consumers, our homeowners, our business owners, our installers. You're doing the same thing, Ken, right? I just went to RE Plus in Las Vegas, probably the biggest solar show on earth. And I, as energy storage manager, I had, probably 100 different manufacturers say, I want you to sell our batteries. Can you sell our batteries? We have the best battery. And
right.
I don't know your company name. I Googled it, and all I saw was just, you're manufactured out of China or wherever, and that's fine, not knocking where something comes from if it's quality and it's got some backing behind it. But a lot is coming back to the United States of America. Quality, stock available here in the U.S., stateside support. Americans want to buy from America, right? I mean, it might be, the stock may be backed and owned by someone who might be foreign, and we have no problem with that. We're a global economy. But the Inflation Reduction Act, I don't know exactly how well that's done on some fronts from an inflation standpoint, but controlling our energy cost and taking the bull by the horns and empowering people to do that and bringing back manufacturing for solar panels and storage stateside to the United States of America, that may be a really good thing for us and our consumers, our homeowners and business owners. I don't know. I mean, it hasn't really played out yet, but some projections are saying that I've read that it's going to be a big opportunity, and it's going to be better for us and better for everyone. Costs are going to come down, I assume. Am I wrong? What are your thoughts about the Inflation Reduction Act and how that might be benefiting consumers and bringing manufacturing back to the United States, Ken?
Well, I think it's definitely working in that direction. I'm always, even with the investment tax credit, it's there. We're going to use it. It's an advantage. It does help people get into a system, and pay it off sooner, which is the whole point, is saving money, right? But even if you didn't have the tax credit, it's still smart to go solar. This act is also, it's kind of like you're getting solar and every taxpayer is helping to pay for it because of certain benefits and discounts and so on and so forth. So in some ways, it's a huge benefit for the sales market and for the people that get solar, and maybe not so big for the people that don't get it. And pardon my, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes with that. It's just, I try to look at it from both sides. Same thing as designing a system. I've told people, you don't need a solar system. You don't need to spend it. It will be smart. It will be nice, but you're not going to save much money until year 10. And they've said, okay, we appreciate that. Let's do it anyway. I'm like, okay, fine. So just be honest and use what's available, including the Inflation Reduction Act, which gives some tremendously beneficial things to businesses in particular. It's there. It's not going to go away. So learn it well and take advantage of it. When it goes away, it'll go away. And it's slated to change over time. So it's pretty good right now, and it won't stay that way. Well, they want to find fish. Right by. Sorry about that.
No, and we're seeing manufacturers bring back manufacturing of solar and storage back to the United States, not just assembled here. I mean, granted, we've got some catch-up time from the implementation and, the signing of the Inflation Reduction Act, but to actually see it happen. I talked to Fortress Power the other day, and they've got locations in the United States where they're going to be manufacturing batteries. HomeGrid, same thing. Q1 or Q2 of 2024. Not just taking cells and assembling and bringing them back, but actually building here in the United States, manufacturing.
Like Simplify, they manufacture right in California. So,
exactly.
And they're growing because of this act too, because it's beneficial to use them for business. But they're also part of a 100-year-old company too, so they're going to be there for a while. Yeah, I agree. It's bringing back manufacturing, and some of the pieces just aren't made because of toxic problems or whatever. Some of the pieces aren't made in the United States. However, if most of it is made in the United States and the cost is over a certain number, I'm not going to quote things right here, but a certain percentage of it, it's considered American-made, even though some pieces of it came from another country. So. And that's all in the Inflation Reduction Act. And it is creating more jobs here, which is good. And we need to keep that up because it's very important, especially in this lackadaisical economy with inflation the way it is, that people are able to, make money and pay their bills. And that's critical. So
right. It's almost like telling Toyota, you can sell as many cars in the United States as you want, but you have to have a manufacturing plant or plants in the United States to support that. Not just come over with a boat and dump your cars.
Right.
Americans need to be able to participate and benefit from you selling, but also creating and manufacturing vehicles here in the United States. And I'm seeing that happen like crazy. It blows my mind. I never thought I'd see the offshoring, as they call it, reshoring, or I can't remember what they call it, but where the jobs are coming back. A lot of opportunity is coming back. A lot of investment and money is coming back. And that's because the folks who run the money, you always want to look at the folks who are running the money. What are they doing with their money? And the folks...
Right.
And so I don't think I'm wrong. Tell me what your thoughts are, Ken. When you look at the folks who run the money and have all the money in this world, what are they doing with that money? A lot of it is in the realm of renewable energy and bringing it back to the United States. From what I'm seeing, it's amazing the ramp up over the next 7 to 10 years of what's expected to be manufactured in the United States in the renewable energy space, huh?
Oh, it is. It's crazy. And not just because of renewable energy, but even EVs. Electric vehicles are driving part of the solar market. I get people saying, I've got an electric car now. How much bigger do I need to have my solar system now? So then we have to look at the history again of what the car is using and how many miles they're driving to work and what they're doing. But it's just another point. Why not fill your car up at home overnight instead of buying it somewhere else? And people making those cars are making them here in the United States for a large part of them. And the charging equipment is made here in the United States. And it's adding to the solar market, of which I try to sell all American if I can, which is adding to, the jobs in the United States. And I hope everybody will lean toward American products like I do.
Electrical vehicles. I'm glad you brought it up. Ken Dodds with us, joining us on the Beyond Emissions podcast from NuEra. Reach out to Solar Ken at solarken@me.com. That's solarken@me.com. So happy that you're here with us on the show, Ken. You mentioned electrical vehicles. Wow. Especially just seeing in the news that there's a lot of pressure on the big three automakers with the big strike that's been, kind of bubbling up for a while now. And Tesla, in a sense, untouched by that, the leader in the EV space. Not that they don't have what Toyota and Nissan on their heels, right? But from an electrical vehicle standpoint, reading the tea leaves again, to use that analogy, how long until we really have a majority of electrical vehicles on the roads in the United States, in your opinion? Is it close, or are we far, far way off?
I think we're still a ways away from having a majority, but the number of them goes up. It's amazing. It's actually climbing. Of course, the technology is improving also. So, and the battery technology is improving. So, they're getting smarter and smarter to use. Plus, there's more and more charging stations out there now. So they're becoming more and more viable, not just something to run, to the store or to work and back and then plug it in because you're almost out of juice. I have a friend that has one that, he's getting 300 miles range out of it on a charge, plans his trip around where he wants to stop and where there might be chargers, and he'll go visit a charger, So he just went all the way to Oregon from down here in Southern California, and all the way around back, Idaho, down, did this whole trip in 100% on electric and didn't have any issue. There were enough charge stations. Now, if you get out in remote areas, in the middle of farmland and whatever, I don't think you're going to find a charging station. I don't think you're going to find a farmer driving around an electric car very far from his home, because there's not going to be any charging stations where there's no people. But as far as really answering your question, it's growing fast, and I don't have a way to tell the pace that they will replace gasoline cars. In the urban areas where people don't drive very far, it's going to go much faster than it is when you get further outside the city.
And that's why the utility is so interested in having homeowners and business owners have ample storage, not just for their own resiliency and their own savings, but to have the ability to, even virtual power plants, borrow that power, buy that power, not borrow. Man, some of the rates with these VPP, virtual power plant programs, the CEC in California just announced a couple of weeks ago through CalSA that VPP was going to be approved.
Community power stations, yep.
Virtual power plants, literally, if you have 20 kilowatt hours of storage, the utility may want to be able to suck 10 kilowatt hours out of that at any given time whenever the utility needs it, and they'll pay you what they would be buying it from a peaker plant. That's a plant outside of the state, usually burning coal or fossil fuels or something, in order to provide that energy on demand when the demand is outpacing the production in the state, as an example, or that utility's area. And they'll buy that 10 kilowatt hours from you, but they're not going to buy it at 20 cents or 50 cents. They might buy it at $3 or $4 or $5 or something like that. That can be a game changer as well, right? For the utility, having that available power from all that storage from all these customers. And then at the same time, giving a little bit more juice for the return on investment, from the homeowner or business owner perspective. That's a big development, isn't it, Ken? What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I think it's kind of interesting the way those are going to be set up, but it's going to be not a huge segment of the market's going to be able to afford to build that much extra storage right off. But as the prices come down, because we're selling more and there's more going in and there's more production and more product made here and it's more easily available, I think we're going to see more and more of that happening, and it's going to be a benefit to the consumer and to the utility. The utilities may actually have to help pay and defray some of the cost of installing it in order to get that contract to buy that power from you when they need it. So those things are all in process of being grown, determined. They're in the petri dish being developed now, so see what's going to work good for everybody. which everything has to go through that.
In the petri dish. I love it. I love the analogy. I love it.
It's in its infancy stages. It's just being grown there. So it remains to be seen. Just like NEM was brilliant, when it came out, and other states tried to mimic it, but not everybody wanted to, and so, but California was in the forefront of that. And there's other states that do some pretty interesting things now too. But it's well beyond that initial stage where it started. So it's grown and it's digested and changed, and there's also a reason for people to have batteries to help the utility companies, which helps you save money, but it also helps the utility company, because when you're all using your power between 4 and 9, and the people that don't have it are using it, they have more power still available to help them out if it's really hot, or if it's really cold, or if it's really, when the people need the most utilities, the utilities able, even before they take extra power from you, that you're using yours, so that allows them to not build as much new infrastructure. They can work on replacing old infrastructure to make it work better. So instead of investing on increasing availability with new systems and leaving the old ones in place, they're able to use the money to upgrade the old ones. And it creates a benefit for everybody, really.
What drives me nuts, it drives me crazy. It really, really does. Ken Dodds with us today on the Beyond Emissions podcast, NuEra. No, Ken, you don't drive me crazy. I was just doing my radio thing, making sure folks know who you are and what they're listening to. It's a habit I have. But no, Ken, you know what drives me nuts, man? How hard it is. How hard the legislature and the Public Utilities Commission, why they call that public, I don't know. But these regulators, how hard they make it. Like, their goal is for everybody to get storage, and then they craft all these crazy rules that are like, reading Klingon. And
yes.
You got to have 10 interpreters to figure it out. It's like, why in the heck don't they just make it simple and easy? If you buy,
you and I went through that with the math, with all those tables and calculating the square footages and the power and these factors that came up that are some random number.
Right.
We were scratching our head like, why did they make it so difficult?
Why not just say, here's the amount of storage that we want to have deployed. So if you buy storage, here's a rebate that you can get. And all you have to do is fill out this one piece of paper when you make your purchase, and the rebate check will be sent to you. Not a tax credit, not a incremental thing, not a like what funds are available and who got the funds first and who signed up and who turned in the 50-page, affidavit. It's like, come on, just a simple one sheet. I'm buying the batteries. I understand you need me to buy batteries, so I'm buying them, and then I'm signing at the bottom, and you're going to send me a check for my rebate or what?
Right.
Like, why in the hell aren't we making it that easy? We're putting the money up, so why are we making it so hard for people to get that money? Are there just preferred people that those check writers want the money to go to, and maybe they don't want it to go to everybody? Or why is it so hard? Forgive me. I don't know. It's a rhetorical question. I'd love your thoughts.
It would be simple to sit down and create something simple. They need to create all these nuances in order to make themselves worth more, because we've created this system that's shining and it has all these steps and things you have to follow. So we're doing something bigger than just making a simple system that says we're going to give you, $500 per kilowatt hour or whatever. That's too simple. They wouldn't need as many of them. They wouldn't need 50 meetings to sit down and go through all the numbers and crunch them for 4 months it just wouldn't need that. So they wouldn't feel important. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they make it too hard. They make it too difficult. SGIP, as an example, I read something in the news the other day that there's still money available in the California Self-Generation Incentive Program, the SGIP fund. There's money available, but it's only available for folks who are in low-income areas and et cetera. And I'm like, how many low-income folks are out there signing up to get that money? They high income folks who can afford somebody, a consultant or somebody who knows what they're doing to come in and figure out how to get that money. They have problems getting that money. So
yeah, and it can take a year to be approved to get the money.
Right.
So and then who's going to sit around and wait and keep the same price on the system until you get the money to build it? There are approved contractors in the list. I know of a number of them. They don't want to deal with it. It's just too difficult, too much work. If somebody wants to pay cash for the system up front and let them apply for that. Now, you mentioned low income. It does go low income, but it also goes high fire area. So whatever its numbers are, 1, 2, 3, I don't remember which one's higher or lower, but it might be the red zone. Let's just say the worst fire zone. You don't have to be so low income if you live in that area, but it still might take over a year to get approved for the fund. So I don't know of anybody that wants to say, "Oh, let's go get these funds for you, and then 16 months we'll be able to build this job for you." Meanwhile, we're going to spend 150 hours trying to apply for you and see if you can get it.
Maybe. Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's not how the real world works. If you're a legislator, I know you're intending well. What's the old saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. There may be good intentions. It may not be the nefarious premise that I mentioned earlier of wanting the money only to go to their friends who have the lawyers to figure out all the jargon and access the money. Maybe they intended well. We're going to help people in fire areas. We're going to help the low income folks participate in the solar revolution. And then we're going to have the lobbyists come in and write it all so it's impossible. I want to go back to the days of legislators and folks who were working in the regulatory agencies like the CPUC and whatnot. I want to go back to the days where it's just one simple document spelled out, nice and easy for the citizenry to take advantage of. If we really, really care about creating this world that's beyond emissions, if California, as an example, really, really cares about the environment and feels that it's vital to have energy storage and solar become the primary source of energy consumption and production in the United States and the world, and climate change is real, and they really believe all that, then why don't they make things simpler? Why don't they create a one-pager for citizens to be able to go, boom, 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 sign right there. All right, I'll go in and buy that 30 kilowatt hours of storage from you, get it installed, and then send the person a check, within a month or whatever.
No, I agree. The Inflation Reduction Act is another case of the same thing. If you go through the thousands of pages in that thing and read everything, the hoops get smaller and smaller and higher as you go. You make this one, and now you got to go to another one, and now you got to go to another one. So, but we're talking politics here instead of solar.
Well, so, I mean, I think that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I think that it's time that we stand up, that we don't just get spoon-fed what comes to us, and we actually think, you know what? Who knows? Beyond Emissions podcast, a lot of folks are listening to this in the industry, and folks who want to learn more about it. Who knows? Maybe there's a legislator that's listening. Maybe there's a person on a regulatory committee that's listening right now and realizes that their good intentions are not creating the results that they say that they want to create. And that's
very possible.
I want to lose weight, but I'm going to go ahead and just eat whatever I want and just hope it all works out. No, you have to have a nice plan. You have to have it thought out. You have to have it make sense. It can't be confusing to achieve any kind of goal in this world. And again, we kind of went off the rails. You're right. But I'm hoping that you're listening, legislators, our homeowners and business owners and installers that are listening to this Beyond Emissions podcast every single week. They want the same result that you want. They want to save our environment. They want to create a better economy that's more resilient and not relying on fossil fuels that hurt our environment further in our future. And take control of the one thing we can control in this world of inflation, which is our energy, if it's done correctly. We want to do that. We want to see an expansion, not a contraction. And it seems sometimes that the best of intentions go nowhere. So the simpler you make it, legislators and regulators, the more results you'll actually get versus your wishes, hopes, and dreams. I'll get off my soapbox right now. Ken, I've so enjoyed our conversation today. We're at the end of the show, and I know you've got a million things going on, so I don't want to keep you forever, but I really appreciate you allowing us to get inside of your noggin today and glean some of your knowledge and sharing your insight on the industry as a whole. Really appreciate your feedback and your educational opportunities that you provided us today, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you very much for having me. And I was kind of like, I just sat back and said, wow, he really wants me to do this. Okay, I'm going to do it. That's a good guy, so I'll talk to him about whatever he wants.
That's it. This is America. Freedom. We want to hear what you have to say. And folks, if you would like to contact Solar Ken Dodds, please reach out to Ken at solarken@me.com, solarken@me.com. Ken has a company called NuEra. He does different types of projects, but you specialize in commercial. Want to double check that. That's really your specialty, isn't it?
Yeah, I can help anybody get connected with a good system for a home, but I really like working out the problems for commercial and solving it.
Excellent. Ken, before we go, anything you'd like to add or share with our audience about how they can contact you later or any resources that you might recommend?
No, it's okay. They got the email solarken@me.com, and I appreciate you, my friend Josh, and I look forward to talking with you as we design more things that we're doing going forward.
Excellent. Ken Dodds from NuEra, solarken@me.com. Ken, hang on the line for our engineers, and thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Right on. Solar Ken. We love having experts with decades of experience come on the show so that we can be educated, right? And again, if you're listening, contact your legislator, contact your regulators, email them, let them know, hey, I was listening to this podcast called the Beyond Emissions podcast at the Sologent YouTube channel or on Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify. And they were talking about how hard it is for us to get this money that you make available. You say you want us all to have solar and storage, but you don't make it easy to get that money and access those incentives. We need to make it easier. We need to make it easier for more people to participate in the Beyond Emissions revolution. Let them know that Josh from Sologent sent you. Thanks so much for tuning in every single week. Experts from around the world joining us here on the show. This is a Sologent production. We're excited to have you here every single week. Stay tuned for more great episodes coming up. Or you can also go to the Sologent YouTube channel and access on demand all of our past episodes. I'm Josh Brum, Energy Storage Manager at Sologent. Sologent, the largest pure-play solar distributor in the Americas. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Emissions podcast.
We at Sologent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with GivePower. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about GivePower if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with GivePower since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by Lone Pal's dedication to the cause. Something Lone Pal said really strikes a chord regarding Give Power, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Soligen.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound Lone Pal's contribution by donating to Give Power on every order paid via our direct pay program through Lone Pal. That's right. Every time your company uses your Lone Pal portal to pay Soligen for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot.
Soligen's purpose meets Give Power's mission. Join the impact. Soligent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more.